Welcome to VCC Connections. I'm Bob, and again, I'm very glad that you're with me. And as you can see from the surroundings, we're not in our normal recording location. I'm actually sitting on the couch in my home. And if you listen to my last connection, I talked about being in the secret place with the Lord and giving my will over to Him, His sovereign place over to Him. But something happened at our morning watch, which is on Wednesday mornings, a couple of weeks ago. As we were in worship of the Lord, I heard this tap, 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 tap on the window. And I looked up at the window. There's a window in the sanctuary. And there was a male cardinal banging away on the glass. And the interesting thing, he's been there before, or one of his friends has been there before, tapping on the window. And when those things happen, I go, Lord, what are you trying to say? You got my attention. What are you trying to say? And what I heard whispered to me is, open up, let me in. Open up, let me in. Well, I thought I have opened up, but I've yielded myself. I yielded my will to you. But see, I heard him saying through that little bird, I want to come in to the place you worship. Because see, we were in the sanctuary. And I don't fully understand that, but I'm saying, Lord, I want you to come in fully into my worship. I don't have to go somewhere. I don't have to go to Jerusalem to worship you. I worship you right here in spirit and truth. Christ, truth, the Spirit of God in me. I can worship you right here, right now. And so as I've been thinking about that, Sunday, guess what happened? The cardinal was at the window again, banging on the window during the worship service. And I looked up, and he was there, but briefly. And again, the Lord saying, I want to come into your worship. And I said, okay, how do I do that? Well, the good news is I keep yielding to him. I keep giving to him. I talk about him. I don't give credit to anybody else what's happening in my life because Christ is my all in all. He goes before me. He's my rear guard. He's our covering, but he fills me in fullness. Many, many years ago, we heard the story of a new pastor had come into a church, and he was getting to know the people. And when he come into the church building on Monday, there was an elderly woman. They would come in at noon, go in the sanctuary and sit there. He noticed that, and he went about his work. And about an hour later, she'd get up and leave. So every day this happened. So he asked the secretary, "Who's that woman? What is she doing?" And you know, here's the interesting thing. The secretary says, I don't know her name. I don't know who she is, but she does that every day. And so the pastor said, next time she comes in, I'm going to find out. Next day he goes ask her, what are you doing? You come here every day. She says, oh, I come here and sit. And I look at him, and he looks at me. See, that's like the secret place for her. A place of quiet and solitude, just to look at the Lord and to be with him. And it's like the Lord is saying to me, have you talked to your neighbor? You don't know your neighbor's friend. You go to church, you go to this, and you don't ask people, what are your name? What do you like? What do you do? What are your hopes? What are your desires? And I'm going, forgive me. He wants into my life, but he wants me to ask and see if they will open the door to their life by me saying, what's your name? What do you do? And this morning, at breakfast, I asked the waitress, what's your name? And she told me. My friend came down, actually the director of these connections sat down, and I told him the name, and he says, oh, that name means this. And I go, oh, wow. So when she came back, struck up our conversation. She said, I didn't know that. See, it allowed us to go further and know more about who she is. And she didn't know that aspect of what her name meant in a different language. And that she said, well, thank you. She started reflecting on that. So God is saying, hear the tapping of the bird? Open up. Let me in. Can I knock and say hello to the person next to me? What's your name? And then listen to what Father says, who that person is, based upon the name. Have you heard your name called by the Lord? Have you asked him to come in? What do I say? How about just sit there and look at him, and he will look at you. Because when you gaze at him, Song of Solomon chapter 4 says, he is overwhelmed. He is moved by you just glazing one time at him. So I pray the blessing of the Lord, and that your ears will be open to hear the tapping, and that you will get up out of your seat and ask your neighbor, what's your name? What are your hopes? What are your desires? And listen to how the Lord will interact and start new relationship. And maybe that person will be introduced to the love of our lives, the King of Kings and the Lord of the Lords, just because, I want to know your friend too, and ask the question, who's this friend of yours? So I bless you to be the friend of God Most High, in Jesus' name.